Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, January the 2nd, 2022, and we're into a new year, new exciting things happening with crypto. Bound to be lots of things going on in the DeFi world, NFTs, even some of the more traditional things like ICOs, STOs going on. We don't really know what we're going to talk about today. As always, this is an open session, open to everybody, whether it's novice or expert alike. Everyone is welcome. We talk about whatever comes to mind, really. Hopefully you'll find it of interest. If you do remember to click on that subscribe button, click on the like, click on the bell so you get reminded when future episodes of this broadcast, or even better, come and join us. We're here every Sunday evening, Sundays at 7 p.m. UK GMT, or BST when it gets warm enough as well. So let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hello and welcome to the Kingdom of St. Pen.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. That's one of my aliases, yeah. So I didn't know that was going to come up, ignore that.
No problem. I saw Kingdom of St. Pen, I thought, is this some sort of new jurisdiction that's declared itself independent from other countries and is creating its own crypto world or something?
Well, it is kind of a newly created sovereign state in formation. And I think there is an aim to have a cryptocurrency at some stage, and they're working on developing those things. Yeah.
Excellent. Whereabouts is that based then at the moment?
Well, it's a jurisdiction that's been claimed in the BVI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it actually has physical territory, and they're aiming to develop it as soon as possible.
Okay, because I think that's one of the leading ones on that, isn't it? There's one in BVI, and there's meant to be one, I think, around Antigua or Barbuda, kind of. So the Caribbean certainly seems to be hot with this kind of thing. But I know there's a couple of projects as well which are looking at being non-geographic jurisdictional as well. So yeah, the idea of not having a physical location, but having a cryptocurrency to support their ecosystem, which sounds really interesting. And I know there's one that is coming out of the UK on that. And then there's another one which is mind-blowing because it's going to be extraterrestrial. So they're looking at creating an entire ecosystem and cryptocurrency to support it, which will be non-Earth based. That's all I can say for now, but that's a very interesting one indeed.
Definitely looking to the future, right?
Yeah, well, they're doing it because they're planning ahead for trips to Mars, and the whole idea that if you end up with interplanetary travel or even just to Mars, you will be completely disconnected from the Earth-based economy, and so they're looking at what they need to do to create something that provides you with a means of exchanging value when it's no longer connected with this planet. So definitely an interesting one. Hey, Rob's joined us. Well, hey Rob, back again. Happy New Year to you both, by the way.
Happy New Year to you. I hope it's a better one than the last couple of years.
I think it depends on what you make of things. I know some people have had challenges in 2021, so hopefully it'll be a better year for them, definitely. Hi Rob, how's it going?
Yeah, very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You come back for some more exciting stuff in the world of crypto?
I'm about to try and find out what I'm doing.
Did Santa Claus send you any nice how to trade in crypto books over Christmas?
He didn't, no.
Oh.
No.
I think Father Christmas was busy minting his own NFTs, so he didn't get a chance to send anything out to anybody. So
there you go.
Fair enough. We've got another person on the line at the moment that you might say is Kingdom of St. Pen. It's not really an independent nation yet, but we were just talking about the creation of new crypto jurisdictions and the creation of cryptocurrencies. So
will it be a tax exile?
Possibly, yeah.
Gets my vote then.
Well, I think that is why some people are looking at creating new jurisdictions and that, because of the ways of avoiding taxation as opposed to evading taxation, which I always tell people that it's a very small difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, but it's very important you stay on the right side of the line of what you're doing. And there's certainly a lot of tax efficient schemes and concepts coming up around either creating jurisdictions geographically. So we were just talking, Rob, just before you joined us about there's a setup being launched around the British Virgin Islands where they're looking at creating something. We've obviously already got El Salvador, which has adopted crypto as a legal tender currency. And then there are a couple, or at least two I know of, non-geographic jurisdictions within which crypto is hoping to operate. So I think 2022 is going to be a very interesting year. I don't know if you chaps been following anything in the news, anything of interest.
I'm focusing on NFTs at the moment, isn't everyone? But with a particular interest in poetry. And I wanted to ask you, Gary, if you had any thoughts about that, if you could see that as a burgeoning area. I mean, I certainly do.
Did you say poetry?
Poetry, art, literature, poetry, poems.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Because I know certainly there has been a big growth in the NFT space, certainly around digital assets in the likes of images, music, video, and that kind of area. So I guess poetry, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a natural extension on that in some way. But I can't actually think of any examples of anybody trying to NFT poetry yet.
Well, there are some. If you go to OpenSea, you'll see a lot over there. I think it's still in its infancy.
Okay.
But what I've noticed about the art that's been created, when you look at people's collections, they've got something like 30,000, 10,000 images. But when you look at the images, it's clear that it's being created by a machine in some way, because often you're seeing similar postures, but just clothed in different, ideas and drawings. So it's not one person actually physically creating the art, it's being generated by a machine.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you think about that, one of the first NFTs was Cryptokitties, and Cryptokitties came out, was it 2017 on Ethereum, and went fairly quiet. And I think it was in 2018 that they exploded for a while. And they were effectively pieces of crypto art that were created programmatically. So it wasn't that you painted it yourself or you drew it yourself. It was effectively you bred two pieces of software to produce another piece. So I guess in a way that's the beginning of that. And there's no reason why you can't have, I'm seeing more and more AI generated artwork where you give the AI a set of rules as to what the art is, and then it goes and creates the actual artwork. So computer generated artwork that could be NFTs, absolutely. It's why there's been some conversation around you having a DAO, so like a decentralized autonomous organization, which is run by a smart contract, which then executes other smart contracts, so it could go and then create its own artwork to fund its own existence.
Yeah.
Who would own it?
Well, this is the great thing, nobody would. And this is where it starts getting interesting with the whole concept around the DAO, where it is autonomous, so it has independence, so nobody owns it, and it looks after itself. So it's kind of the ultimate in self-supporting software in a way. There's been talk as well about in a few years' time with autonomous vehicles. If you think about at the moment, all autonomous vehicles are owned by people or companies. Conceptually, if you put the intelligence into a vehicle to give it the ability for it to make its own decisions. So think of it as an AI-based Uber. So it's like a vehicle that doesn't even have a driver. And it goes and makes its own decisions as to which fares it's going to collect. And it makes its own decisions about when it needs refueling or recharging, that kind of thing. And it would self-exist in a way.
Mm.
So this is why I've said for a while, if you look at Uber at the moment, most of the challenges that Uber's had with scaling into different countries is around the problem of drivers, either driver licensing, driver registration, are drivers employees, all these kind of things. Well, ultimately, if you end up with driverless vehicles, all of those hurdles go away, because you don't need your drivers to be regulated. You don't need your drivers to do whatever it is, checks, this kind of thing, because they don't exist. And then when you've got a vehicle which has got a smart contract with the ability to negotiate its own things, so you've then got a piece of software living in something physical, looking after itself.
Yeah.
Now, as to how far away we are from that, we're probably a few years, but it does seem to edge closer and closer. And this is where crypto comes into it again, because if you've got an autonomous vehicle that's negotiating how it receives payment for transiting somewhere from A to B and how it pays for electricity, cryptocurrency actually fits that really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We shall see. This is all futurescape stuff, but may not be that far in the future.
Probably far, I don't think. For me, what's interesting is the relationship that human beings, real people, are going to have with virtual entities.
Yeah.
And seeing that metaverse is being fleshed out, so to speak, that place is going to be as real as the physical universe.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you're right. That's where it's going to be interesting, how you've got the virtual world moving into the physical world, which is what we're describing with things like autonomous vehicles, where you've got something physical existing. You've also got the transfer the other way of the physical world transiting into the virtual world. So you've already got projects which are doing things like tokenizing property in the metaverse. So you can buy land in the metaverse and this kind of thing. So that's a transition the other way. So you've got this whole blurring of what is real and what is virtual.
Absolutely.
Because I was quite amused. I think there was something appeared on Twitter a couple of days ago, totally unconnected to this, but it kind of wakes your mind up a little bit. There was a hospital in Australia that was saying that it was currently treating, I think it was something like 217 COVID cases. And it said it had 217 COVID patients, of which 216 were virtual COVID patients. It's like, what do you mean virtual COVID patients? It's like, well, they're at home, but we're keeping an eye on them. So effectively what they were arguing was that every person in their local community who had COVID, because they were keeping an eye on them in some way and getting them to check in, they were classing them as a COVID patient. It was just that they were virtual COVID patients. So it shows how the virtual world, the world we're having this meeting in at the moment, the metaverse, the physical world, it's all blurring.
It is all blurring. And I wonder if the human identity is going to be subsumed within it, and which is going to have higher standing, or artificial entities going to have an equal legal presence as a real person.
You're right, and that's where you take a look at the initiative around things like digital twins, which I think was an in vogue phrase for a while, and it seems to have disappeared at the moment. But the idea, things like BIM, so building information management, the idea that any building that gets created now has a digital twin, which is a digital representation of it. And the same with human beings. You know, we all have identities which are physical, and we're all beginning to have identities which are digital. You know, we've all got email addresses, we've all got WhatsApp addresses, wherever. But in the future, will we have a digital twin, which is effectively our avatar that represents us in the digital world? So I guess if you play computer games, you've got a user ID, you've got an avatar, you've got a nickname or whatever. That could extend to be more and more as a digital representation of you in some way. So I was having a chat with someone before Christmas about the idea of going back to the metaverse arguments again, about if you've got a piece of digital art that sits in a virtual gallery, in a virtual game, where you own the virtual real estate, and you have bought that virtual art via your avatar, and your avatar bought it off something that is actually a robot, you know, a digital robot that has created this piece of digital art. It's all like your head gets blown away about legally. Again, I was having another conversation with this a few days ago with someone. Legally, what's the jurisdiction of the metaverse? Because at the moment, we've got this physical thing that we can normally physically walk up to somebody and say, you're in London, the legal jurisdiction is England and Wales type thing. But once it's in the metaverse, and it's not you trading, but a digital avatar that you've created, which is a bit of software that is now transacting on your behalf in some way with another digital thing, another bit of software, where does jurisdiction sit? So I know a couple of people who are now talking about becoming metaverse lawyers in some way, because they can see an opportunity that there may be some need for legal dispute resolution in that. You then get the other thing that normally you can tie down jurisdiction, if nothing else, it's either by who makes a claim first in which country, or which country the creator of the software is. But what happens if the software has been created by software? So say this AI, machine learning, whatever device has created its own software, which it wasn't originated by a human being, and it has gone off and done some trading, for example. What's the legal status there? I'm sure the lawyers will all be able to opine on this in some way, and it'll take a court case to provide some form of case law or precedence. Mm. But yeah, I think we're just at the beginnings of this in some way.
It is confusing, I know. Right, I've got my daughter here. She's 17, and she's like, "Oh, this all sounds too confusing." I'm like, well, yes, how do you think I cope?
Well, if you think it's confusing, that probably means you understand it better than most. Because if you realise it's confusing, then absolutely.
Yeah.
But does your daughter play Roblox? Minecraft?
No. Minecraft? But she's not really allowed games.
Okay.
So,
she should speak to her parents and say that she's doing a journey of exploration on their behalf. No, she doesn't need to do that. All right.
I don't know what she's actually sat there playing Is it solitaire? Yeah, she's playing solitaire. That's how techno we are in this house.
Okay. Yeah. But is it solitaire on a computer?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on a laptop. It's not even on an iPad.
Yeah. But even with that, does she get to keep her high score?
Yeah.
Yeah. And can she share her high score with other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And does she have to use the same version of solitaire as anyone else when she's playing against others?
She doesn't know.
Okay. Yeah. So probably she's got an app or something, or a website, which means that if she wanted to play it against someone else, that someone else would have to have the same software or access the same website. So imagine the next step from that is going to be where she can play a different version of the software, but it's still solitaire. Okay. And imagine she could win prizes, and she wins prizes, which are the points that she gets. And then she can exchange those for prizes in other games.
Right. Yeah.
Well, now you're in the world of crypto.
Yeah, is it right? Have I heard this right? That on some game, McDonald's, you can gather vouchers and exchange them for McDonald's.
Yeah.
Probably. I think anything they can do to get you hooked on their stuff is probably likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know certainly.
I mean, it's a way of bringing gaming into the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. Or making people fat or fatter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But trust them to get on board first.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, actually, that if that then introduces them to those things, it's a bit like Domino's Pizza before Christmas did a promotion where, I think it was Domino's anyway, where if you ordered a pizza worth more than £15, I think it was, you got £10 of cryptocurrency.
What?
And they ran the promotion for a while, and then they reran it, and it became even better. It got to the point where I think if you ordered something like £30 worth of food from them, then you got something like £15 cash back and £15 in crypto. So it was almost like if you ordered this pizza, you got it for free.
Yeah, definitely.
It was insane, the deal that they were offering. So in the crypto club that I run via WhatsApp, I actually put this message out, and I think a few people actually stocked up on pizzas. So, but my thinking is that anything that gets more people into the crypto space has got to be good. Yeah.
So going back to that pizza flight thing, what a brilliant money laundering exercise. So if they're paying you out in cash, yeah. Anyway, not that I suggest anybody does that.
Yeah, as always, I'm not offering financial, legal, taxation, or criminal advice. But if you want to go money laundering, the US dollar is still the best thing.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly open to the potential of fraudulent activity in there. And there are occasions when you look at, are there certain schemes that become financially attractive for you to rinse and repeat with them? So I know that there's a YouTuber whose name escapes me at the moment, but he runs a series which is about exploiting bugs in software to game it for more points or to win games and that. And occasionally he does it in the real world. So he did it a while ago with, I think it was a burger promotion, where he realized that there was some burger promotion going on that if you bought a particular combination, it gave you vouchers, which effectively made it free. And then he just repeated it and ended up with loads and loads of free burgers. There's something Brit, Spiffing Brit, I think it is. And he runs a YouTube channel and he speaks in a very plummy British accent. And he's usually about exploiting games and how to get unlimited points, but occasionally comes up with real world examples. Yeah. So someone who's doing like a greetings card promotion, where if you buy more than a certain amount, you get a voucher to get so many free. He exploits that kind of thing. So same with pizzas, I guess. Yeah.
Really good.
So Rob, in your quest for, or your thirst for learning, how are things coming along? Are you still learning more?
It's every day's a school day. Yeah, I've been the last few days. I've been looking at staking.
Okay.
Because at the moment I'm only using Binance, so obviously my Ethereum and Bitcoin and stuff like that I stake, which are my two. That makes up probably 70% of all of my coins. but the staked returns on Binance are pretty rubbish. Bitcoin's at 3%. I don't stake it. I only stake it where I can get it back immediately, because I'm still learning. So sometimes I want to take a little bit back to do something else with, just to to help the learning, really. But but I did read a comment about KuCoin that and it implied that there was a lot more staking options and the returns were better. Did I read that right, or am I wrong?
I don't know. I've not looked enough at staking to know what the options are at the moment. I do know, however, that you tend to find that the return on investment, or the interest that you earn, is going to be relative to how long you tie your stake up for. Yeah. So it's a shame. I think Ellie, who normally joins us, she's not joining us today. She does staking, and I think that she's mentioned before now that one of the problems with staking is obviously whilst the coin is staked up, you can't do anything else with it.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why I don't do it for 3 months or 12 months. I do it so I can actually get it back straight away.
Right. But you got the other thing as well, that the longer you commit something for, the longer it's tied up for, the higher the risk is of it going wrong. And usually an interest rate is a reflection of how much risk you're taking. And so I guess that's the thing, that you'll find higher risk things will offer a higher rate of interest, or a high rate of return, at least. Yeah. So
so I'm looking at that, and I also tried to get my head around. Oh, what was it? Something pool. I can't remember what they called it, but it sounded like whatever you put into the pot, they would split it into a percentage into coin, then a percentage into currency, and you got a lot better return for some reason, but I don't really understand it. I can't remember what it was called. Something pool.
Okay,
there are pool, is it?
There are a number of things like that, and you just have to be a little bit careful with them at times, depending upon their credibility.
Yeah.
Because once you go into the idea of owning a crypto token that represents ownership in something else, it then becomes a derivative. And derivatives in the UK, it's the FCA banned them. So the FCA actually made it illegal for consumers, so the likes of us, to trade in crypto derivatives in the UK. And so that's why a number of firms did actually switch out their operations a while ago. And Binance, interestingly, Binance used to offer some crypto derivatives and stopped offering them last year in the UK, because the FCA said what you're offering is a crypto derivative. Crypto derivatives are not permitted in the UK. And that's why Binance went through a bit of pain for a while, where everyone thought that the FCA were telling Binance to shut up shop completely, whereas they weren't. It was specifically around their crypto derivative offering.
Yeah.
So you just need to be careful with that, it's a way of diversification, but by a pool potentially having a portion of different crypto and different assets, that kind of thing. So from an investment point of view, that sounds quite sensible, because it's diversification, and that's what a lot of investors tell you about. However, you then need to look at how it's done, because there aren't many options to do that legally. Now, whether that's going to make the slightest bit of difference to retail investors in the UK, the FCA is not going to come after you in all probability and say, hey, you're dealing in something illegal.
Yeah.
They've made it against the law in order to, in theory, protect you. So it'd be kind of odd if they then tried to prosecute you for doing something that's trying to protect you in some way. But I would say just be careful with it.
Yeah. It's just something I was sort of reading up on and watching some, YouTube clips and stuff like that. It's just something else to get my head around amongst everything else.
And I think this is it, that there is so much as to whether it's the DeFi world and where you're talking about things like yield farming, as you were mentioning before, and staking, or whether it's the NFT world and what's going on with that, which the NFT world continues to be ever more crazy. You know, I'm discovering that there's more and more people moving into something whilst understanding it less and less.
Yes.
Which is usually a harbinger of doom.
Yeah, it's the fear, the FOMO, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I read a thing about it where a good use for it was going to be ticketing, so airline tickets and boarding passes and things like that, which is a real world use for it. But I think just putting millions of pictures up and then paying lots of money for them.
Yeah. So I've been looking. You're right. So the ticketing idea is really interesting, and I've been involved in one project around exploring doing exactly that. And the way I kind of describe it as well is that you think about the evolution of the blockchain, is that if you think that blockchain as a foundational platform is the railway, it's your railway network. Smart contracts are your trains, and NFTs are your tickets. So effectively, so you think about that as a kind of construct. So NFTs are the things that actually enable you to generate revenue from the rest of that investment in your infrastructure in some way. And the great thing about using NFTs is the fact that not only can you use them to generate revenue, but it can be like recurring revenue. The fact that you can have an NFT that keeps earning 10% every time it's sold on is quite a nice thing. So I was looking at some exploratory work around using NFTs as a ticketing option for either transport or for events. So football matches, rock concerts, whatever. Yeah. Because you can then do another clever thing, which is you can then introduce things like membership benefits. So if you're a member of let's say a football club, for example, so sorry, I'm a member of a football club, football supporters club, then you could add an NFT that enables you to go to a game, but gives you some paraphernalia, like a free program or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and there's a lot of football clubs who are getting into NFTs right now, exactly around that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely say watch this space, because I'm aware of, I would say, at least 3 projects that are moving into that space.
Yeah.
And I have to be careful because I'm involved in at least 2 of them.
It's like, do you remember a few years back when they first sold off the 3G networks? It might have been actually 2G, and the airtime companies, the Vodafones of the back then, were paying hundreds of millions for the licenses to the government, but they didn't have the use for it yet. But they knew if they didn't buy it, if they didn't get into it, and their competitors did, they would lose out.
Yep.
And I feel that the whole NFT thing is like that at the moment. It's people haven't, it's there, but they haven't found the actual use for it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And it's interesting as well how people who are critical about the crypto world talk about how, well, it's not based on anything. It's ones and zeros that don't exist and don't have any value. And funnily enough, as you say, the 2G or the 3G network, when the UK government sold off the use of that spectrum, and as you say, all the mobile phone operators put billions in to pay for the use of something. Just how fictional is that? That was a license to transmit on a frequency, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's not exactly physical or real or anything like that. It's just that the government has arbitrarily declared that it owns the use of a particular frequency range and licenses whether you can access or use it or not. And you're absolutely right that the mobile operators went heavily overboard with the amounts they paid. So it must have been the ultimate printing press for money for the government for a while. Definitely. Yeah. But they all piled into it because, as you say, they knew that one day they'd use it, but they didn't know what for when they bought it. So yeah, you could be right with some NFTs that I think some people are moving into the NFT space simply because they can see it's going to be the next big thing. It is, as you say, it's FOMO on a colossal scale.
Yeah.
I don't know, any other views on the NFT world from our Caribbean friends?
Only what I've just said. I think it is something that's going to turn out to be interesting. And then analogy that you used of it being a ticket for a train on a track is perfectly apt. There's probably going to be use cases that appear that we've not thought about yet, obviously, and it's going to be very surprising. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It looks like a good thing with all sorts of uses. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think you're right as well. That there's many ideas that just haven't been thought of yet. Because I tend to find that most ideas are either in the innovation space, at least, it's someone has simply taken what already exists and rebundled it, repackaged it, reshaped it, whatever, to create something that at first looks new, but then you go, actually, isn't this the same as this? Just a variation on it. So there's actually very little real innovation. It's usually a rebundling and repackaging of things. But occasionally you do get like completely new ideas where you go, I'd never thought of doing that. This is where I joke, particularly with people in the crypto community, particularly kind of like the Bitcoin maximalists who say, oh, you shouldn't use Bitcoin in this way, or crypto is intended purely for libertarian thinking, blah, 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 blah. It's like, look, it'll end up being used for whatever people use it for. And if you take a look at SMS messages originally were intended just for telecoms engineers to transmit status reports. So, you know, that wasn't intended for people to send messages to all their friends and family and that. And then the SMS community exploded. And that was something that no one had thought of previously. SMS wasn't something that a company explicitly said, I know what we need is to create a market for blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's just at some point the telco operators went, I wonder if we can extend this and reuse it. And in a way, you know, you look at Twitter. Twitter was kind of an extension of that in a way, that Twitter was the ability to send 140 characters over the internet. Who on earth would want to send 140 characters over the internet? Well, you know, Jack Dorsey and co obviously thought a little bit ahead of others, and they did it, and now you have Twitter.
Yeah, but I bet you when they were thinking about it and they were brainstorming, they thought they were crazy, right?
Yeah.
You have to take a giant leap of faith and kind of imagine something really weird, unicorn-like, becoming real.
You also need to think of something that is slightly beyond the current technology that's available. So it's a little bit like, as we were saying with 2G or 3G earlier on, that the companies who bought licenses knew that they'd have a need for it in the future, but they didn't actually know quite what it was. Well, in a way, there are sometimes technologies that aren't actually quite right for what you want to use them for. You think about, you know, SMS and Twitter originally. If you had like a Nokia 3110 mobile phone, you know, to type a message, you'd have to press the 2 button twice to get the letter E, and then the 1 button once to get the letter A. And it's like, what kind of stupid, crazy, no one's going to use that.
Yeah.
But then once you have the ability to use a keyboard, which BlackBerry were, you know, clever on, then it suddenly became a lot easier. and then it kind of grew from there, really. So interesting. So yeah, the true people who are ahead of the game are the ones who just look at what's available and just take it a little bit further than what's currently around. Hey, and we're joined by Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year, everyone.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi.
Oh yeah.
You've missed out on a really fascinating discussion about DeFi, yield farming, DAOs, NFTs.
Wow.
We've been doing the work tonight. It's been so good. I'll watch the recording myself later.
I always forget. I always mean to join on a Sunday night, but for some reason it's a funny time and I always forget about it. And I thought to myself at 6 o'clock, oh, I'll join, and then suddenly realised it was 20 to 8.
It's always a challenge to work out the best time to run these sessions, because there's never a perfect time for people. If you do it during the week, they've got weekday commitments. If you do it during the weekend, they've got the things. If you do it during the day, it's awkward. If you do it during the evening, and then
It's all right, actually. It's just me.
No, I think, well, the way I do it ties in exactly with how we set this group up originally, which is I used to go to a coffee shop at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening. So I set up the crypto group to just run at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening in the coffee shop, simply on the basis that if no one turned up, well, I was going anyway, so no big deal. And it's the same with these. You know, I can switch on a Zoom call, and if no one joins me for an hour, I'm happily looking at the crypto charts anyway. So it kind of works. But you make a good point, Rachel, about about reminding people about these things. You know, what's the best way? Is it sending messages out to people, or just hoping they'll do it, or setting up a diary appointment?
A WhatsApp group would be good, wouldn't it?
Well, we've got one.
Have you? Oh.
Yeah. There is a WhatsApp group. If anyone wants to join that, you're more than welcome to come and join on that. Send me your details separately, and I'll add you to the Books Crypto Club WhatsApp group.
All right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, my cryptocurrency has gone down a lot, and I keep seeing, you know, doom and gloom in the news all the time.
Yep.
So has anyone got an opinion about when it's going to start, you know, resuming the bull run?
I know it will happen. It will be the day after you sell it.
I'm not selling. I'm a hodler.
Well, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I am little bit concerned lately.
So I think Ellie, who usually joins us, I keep joking with her that what we need to do is get her to tell us what she's going to do and then do the opposite of it. Exactly as you say, it's whenever you get into something or move out of something, that's when it all collapses or goes up and it does the opposite. But the way I kind of think about it, just got like as Bitcoin at the moment, we just go back to the 1 day chart. The way I've been describing it to a few people is that if you look at, in fact, we go back to the 1 week chart. Back at the beginning of 2021, so if we have a look, there we go, around about here. If you bought at the beginning of 2021, then you're only up by about 30%. That's not bad, you know, compared to pensions or whatever. And as always, this is not financial advice on that. So it tends to be that if you just wait long enough, things will recover. You know, and the risk sometimes, I think, is people who buy and they go, oh yeah, it's going up, go great, you know, fantastic, you know, it's up to 57 here. Oh, it's collapsed. You know, and they panic because it drops 10, 15% or whatever. But crypto does this. You know, you look here, it was at 57. Before you know it, it's down to 34. So it's dropped. So 50%.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, but then equally, if you then waited and say you bought at this peak when it was 56, 57, that was in May, and it took until October, so about 4 or 5 months, something. It's back to where it was. So you just never know.
Just got. I'm sticking to my strategy. I buy small amounts, and I'll just wait. And overall, I mean, overall is if I look at it since the beginning of the year, it's up.
Yep.
So I haven't lost money. I'm not complaining about losing money, but I'm complaining about the fact that it's not at its all-time high that it was before.
The thing is, if you're buying small amounts each month or each week or whenever, you don't want it to be permanently at an all-time high, because you're always buying at an all-time high. So you want these dips, because then when it dips and you buy a bit more, you are lowering your average cost. So I wouldn't see it as.
I think I'm worried about some kind of fundamental change, because I've always really believed in cryptocurrency and really strong faith in it, you know. But the things I've been reading lately is just like quite depressing in terms of, it's all gonna, you know, it won't exist anymore, and all this stuff, you know.
Stop reading it.
Yeah,
I think so.
That's the best way. If you don't want to hear bad news, don't look at the news. But I've been hearing that, you know, I've been interested in the space since about 2014, 2015. I've been hearing it ever since. You know, there's that website, isn't there, which it itemizes every time Bitcoin has been threatened as Bitcoin is dead, I think the website's called, or something. And there's been over 100 times where people say, oh, Bitcoin is no more. You hear about things like, oh, the regulators are going to kill it off, the banks are going to refuse access to it. You get all of this.
Yeah.
And you just don't ultimately know. You know, so that there is always this risk, which is where it could go to zero. Yeah, it could. But then equally, I've had enough conversations with people who are in the traditional financial world who are very skeptical about crypto. And they say, oh, yeah, it's going to collapse to zero. There's nothing backing it, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, so that's the same as fiat currencies then? And they go, oh, no, you know, fiat's government backed, it's perfectly safe, it's perfectly secure. Go, okay, how about Venezuela or Zimbabwe?
Argentina.
Or Argentina, yeah. So, and then they go oh, you mean only certain governments, right? Okay. So what you mean, as long as it's a strong, stable government, the currency won't have a problem, or your bank won't have a problem, unless your money's in a Cypriot bank account and the government takes a haircut on it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I'm just going to sit tight, I think, and just
hodl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been doing that since 2018, I think. So
you've already seen it go through a few cycles.
Oh yeah, it's gone like really, it went, because I bought at all-time highs of everything at the time when I bought it, and then it just collapsed for ages and ages and ages, and like all my friends were like, oh well, you know, you're a gambler, what do you expect? But I thought, no, I'm just gonna, because it's kind of gone worthless, I'm just gonna keep it and wait. And then I started just getting, when I find new ones that might be interesting, like Solana, for example, get a bit of those.
The thing I've noticed is that the people who tend to do badly are the ones who are emotionally driven in their decisions, and so they go, oh, that's doing really badly now, so I'll sell it to buy something else that I think is going to do better. And that's always the point at which whatever it was that they had then goes up in value, and whatever they've just bought into collapses. And then they repeat that cycle again. And so that they keep chopping and changing, and they always buy into something because it looks like it's on the rise, which actually it's just about to collapse. Yeah. And you can never kind of quite time it.
It's funny one, isn't it? It's kind of like a game in a way.
Well, it is, but it's kind of interesting as well. Like you think of it as compare it to premium bonds. You know, premium bonds, at least you don't lose the money that you've put into it. You're only losing the loss of interest that you would have had if you'd have done something else with it. And every so often you can win some money or whatever. In a way, crypto's similar to that. except that the fiat value of it drops, but the crypto value of it stays the same. If you buy 100 Solana, in a year's time, even if the dollar price collapses, you've still got 100 Solana. Now, might not be worth much, or it might be worth an awful lot. So,
I mean, to be fair, I could take out the initial investment that I put in and still have quite a lot in there, and then it would be free.
Yeah.
So then I wouldn't worry so much about it.
And that's a tactic I've seen some people use, whereby they buy into something, and the point at which they've effectively broken even, they sell off their original stake, and they keep anything in addition, which is brilliant, as long as you bought at the right time and you've held it and it's gone up enough. But that doesn't work if you bought at the high and it then collapses. So yeah.
I suppose I'm just impatient. I'm waiting for this. I think it's going to go exponential. That's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for this exponential thing, and it looks like it's going to do it, and it starts that parabolic curve, and then it stops, and it's just like incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. Well,
But,
if it was predictable, everyone would be doing it.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I accept that crypto is a form of gambling, but I also accept that anything to do with traditional money is gambling as well. So if you've put your money into a pension, you're gambling that that pension fund is going to do well. If you buy shares, you're gambling that the shares are going to increase in value.
Yeah, but they call it investing to justify it.
The only difference between gambling and investing is the amount of tax that you pay. Investing is seen as legitimate, because it's regulated. But then so is gambling. Gambling's regulated as well. In fact, in some ways, the rules around gambling are tighter than the rules on the financial services side of things.
It's not gambling, because gambling is where another person controls the odds. So there's a fixed amount of odds that you get. So and they will make it they rig it in their favor, don't they? Because it's all calculated, so that they like the casinos and stuff, they calculate so that they don't lose. They only lose a certain amount of times or something. Is that right?
Yeah, but that still means it's a gamble on their side. It's just
so they are gambling, but
it's just the odds are stacked in their favor.
No one's like rigged it up so that you can't win. In that sense, it's actually just a free market type thing.
So I would say, and the crypto people aren't going to like this, that crypto is every bit as rigged as any other industry. So there are definitely manipulators in there who are able to influence markets. So you see it with pump and dump schemes.
Mentioning no names.
Yeah, well, you see certain price fluctuations that have been caused by someone spooking a market.
Yeah.
And you could argue, is it market manipulation if someone tweets something?
It is.
Because it certainly has an impact on the behavior of that crypto. That if someone says, here's a picture of my Shiba Inu, and magically, the coin goes crazy, is that a form of manipulation?
I think it is, yeah.
So that's where the regulator gets a bit antsy about things at times. But
he's actually going to accept Dogecoin now, isn't he? Apparently.
What, for new Teslas?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, there was some news a couple of weeks ago that he said he was going to accept it, and it went massive. It went up. Then he said he didn't like the environmental impact of it. It went back down. Now lately, he said he's going to accept it for some products. So it's kind of gone up a bit again, but not as much as I thought, because I think people are getting a bit fed up with this kind of tweets, which kind of don't really mean anything.
But that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because that means that it's having a damping effect on his influence. Whereas what you would have expected in some ways of more and more people would be saying, oh, well, look what happened last time. Every time he sends a tweet, the price goes up. And so you get more and more people rushing into this fool's gold type thing. But maybe it's because maybe it's the smart money is already counterintuitively recognizing what's going to happen type thing.
I think to a certain extent, it's the fact that he's done it too many times. You know, he's changed his mind too many times, and I think people have started thinking that he's just messing about and not actually, you know, he's just playing around and messing around, and I think people don't believe him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so. It's not genuine what he's saying. So if he says he might accept Doge, who knows if it's true?
Yeah.
He could change his mind next week. So, but yeah, I've got a bit of it, a bit of a Doge coin, just in case.
Well, I was on BBC Radio London, I think it's just over a month ago, where I was actually on a dog program. It was a late night show, and it was actually about dogs, and they brought me on to talk about Dogecoin and Shiba Inu.
Brilliant.
Which is
Brilliant.
exactly how on earth do you end up on a radio show about dogs talking about cryptocurrency? So
that is hilarious.
Quite
I ended up on a Radio 4 thing a couple of weeks ago, talking about amphibians, and it was about the full moon. So it's all totally random. That was called Wireless Nights.
Okay.
It was totally a random thing, yeah. So,
but did you manage to link crypto into it and how crypto is influenced by the moon phases?
I didn't mention it because, well, I rambled on a lot and they cut most of it out anyway. So even if I'd mentioned it, I don't think they would have actually used it.
they edit it out. Yeah.
But that's a really interesting thing. And I looked it up about the Bitcoin and the moon, and there's a lot of tweets about it and a lot of stuff about it. So that is really, really interesting. So I think you could make a model, couldn't you, with Elon Musk's tweets, news about China, moon phases, whatever else, and you could just like model the price, but there's always going to be some unknowns.
Yeah. So I did a chart, I think it was over a year ago now, just as a bit of entertainment, because people keep saying to me, well, when there's a big spike or a big drop in crypto prices, people always say to me, well, what caused that? You know, what was it because the Chinese government announced something or Elon Musk sent a tweet or whatever? And my answer is usually it's that there's a butterfly in the Amazon flapped its wings.
Yeah.
But I actually took a look at a Bitcoin chart at one point, and I actually plotted out all these sudden peaks and troughs. And I went off, I looked at these sudden spikes, and I looked at the news. So there are certain websites that give you a list of what were the news items on particular days. And I tied it in with something like player transfers in the Premier League. It was bizarre that you could actually, for every spike, it was some announcement about some footballer had done something. And it was one of these crazy things that it's a bit like, you know, the one that's well known about Nicolas Cage film releases and the number of swimming pool deaths in the USA.
Oh, it's this correlation's not causation thing.
Exactly right. So there is this correlation that every time Nicolas Cage releases a new movie, that the number of people who die in swimming pool accidents in America increase, and there is a correlation. So I did this to prove that there is a direct correlation between something like Premier League football announcements and Bitcoin price surges. So it shows it really is just totally random. So anyway.
But there's a whole website about all these spurious correlations, and they just list hundreds of them. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Absolutely. Some of the correlations, that kind of thing, I'm going to have to correlate the time of day and the fact it's 8 o'clock in the UK. And we're going to have to call it a day, I'm afraid. So
I'll try and join on time next time.
Definitely. So hope that those who were on the call enjoyed it, found it interesting, and Happy New Year to everybody. And for those who are watching this afterwards, I hope that was something a little bit different and entertaining and interesting. So for anyone who doesn't join us, do subscribe and do come and join us next Sunday. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Go and wash your hands. Have a great week.